Hello friends, today I have an illustrative example for you of one particular concept. The solution to this position is quite simple, and yet I think it's very important to see for those who are not the most experienced chess players. Before I guide you through this position, please pause the video and think what would you play in this position if you were given the white pieces. And so in this position, white is much better. White is enjoying the so-called space advantage thanks to the pawns on e5 and b4. They have more central control. The position does not favor the two bishops because it's closed, and the bishop on b7 is simply horrendous. It is restricted by its own pawns around on the light squares, and it's very immobile. So one of the ideas for white could be to exchange one of the knights for opponent's good bishop. Then we would enter the so-called good knight versus bad bishop scenario. Let's investigate that concept shortly. Imagine at some point we jump to c5 or d6 and our opponent decides to exchange their dark square bishop for this amazing knight. And what we have here is called good knight versus bad bishop. Knight is good because we have an opportunity to go to an outpost, which would be one of them would be the d6 square, and the knight is so good on that square that opponent might wake up in the middle of the night and look under his bed if there is no such amazing knight. It's nightmares. And the bishop is bad because it's the same color as their pawns that are fixed. So pawns are on the light squares and the bishop is losing all its mobility. However, that's not the best way to play here. One has to see an opportunity for white to launch a kingside attack, because white can bring many more pieces to the king side than the opponent can. His king is there, so there is a target on the king side, and so if someone asks what is a kingside attack, it means that one side have more pieces coming to the king side than the other. Now, the move that I want you to play here, and is the best, would be knight f to g5. It prepares to bring the Majesty herself so that we could give checkmate, and it also just brings the knight closer to the opponent's king where we can create threats. You wouldn't believe how many times do I see amateurs making this mistake in the opening and middle game when the attacking chances on the king side are not there, and after a move like h6 they go back. If you go back, then don't go knight g5 because you're losing tempi and time. Better use that time for making enhancements of other pieces. However, if you can continue with the initiative after opponent plays a move like h6, then go for it. And there are a couple of ways to play here. One of the moves that are possible would be queen to h5, the simplest, but I can show you also a beautiful alternative. Because we're having already too many pieces here versus naked king, all we have to do is open it up. And a move knight f6 come easily to mind for an experienced chess player, with the idea that, okay, if they don't take, we bring the queen, we do the lift of the rook, and we're gonna create threats by opening up the opponent's king by probably sacrificing somewhere or h6 or g7. And if they take, then we have the king open, and now we just have to bring pieces to attack it. You could also take the f6 pawn with your own pawn, but rook takes also wins. So as they're having a material advantage of two extra pieces, it's not a fair fight when the king is just naked in completely open position. And we're already threatening mate in 2. There is no escape via f8 square, queen say takes g5, king f8, and again, it's just not fair fight. Our rook could come to the f1 square and continue the attack. So even sacrifices like f7, as long as we're opening up the king and not allowing black to bring any backup, work because we have all of these mating threats in mind. Just keep in mind that queen alone won't be able to mate 99% of the time. So you need at least two pieces that are left on the board near the opponent's king. So this is one of the ways to continue this attack, and the other one is, say, maybe more classical, just bringing the queen, and as our opponent is grabbing the material, for example, pawn takes g5, okay, we still have many pieces that are coming to the attack, and at the same time the opponent's king is getting more and more opened. So now I just want to play queen to h7 and give a mate on that square. So a move like rook e8 again makes sense for black to try to escape bf8, but here there are just too many pieces that are around the king, and tactics start appearing to our favor. Tactics do appear to favor of the side that is more active. So this was an illustrative example of a feasible kingside attack. Look for these opportunities when you see that potentially more of your army are coming to one side of the board. You must always be aware of potential counterplay, and I think one of the good things about this position for white as well is that the center is kind of closed, or white is dominating it. One of the main concepts are that we can only launch a side or a flank attack if the center is closed or one side is dominating it, right? So it's important to not allow any kind of counterplay like that under good circumstances for black. And here there are no such good circumstances for black. I think he's just too late after knight to g5. So I hope you enjoyed this short video on kingside attack. I think this was a very illustrative example that was also very simple. Look for these things in your games because they're happening more often than you think. If you did enjoy the video, please do subscribe to my chess channel. You can also consider hiring me as your personal chess coach online. That's my full-time job at the moment. Stay safe, my friends, and continue loving the game. Thank you very much for watching.